Good morning. Welcome to Spring Piston Rifle Fever. If you have never subscribed to my channel, I'd highly appreciate it if you would subscribe and ring the bell and give my video a like, because I'm going to bring you some good information about the Hatsan 95. So in the comments, I had gotten a question recently, how do I rate Hatsan air rifles? So right now, I've owned this Hatsan 95 for a few years, and this has positives and negatives. This is going to be about the diamond in the rough versus the boat anchor. So I told the fellow that either your Hatsan is going to be a boat anchor, which means that it's pretty much good for nothing and to be thrown away or thrown into a lake, but don't do that because we don't want to pollute. But either it's going to be a good one or it's going to have problems. And also, if it's a good one, it's still going to have problems. And a lot of that has to do with the build quality. It's not a Y-Row or anything like that. It's not a fine work bow. It's not a Walther LGV or anything like that. This does have a good barrel. It is accurate, but it also has some problems. And I'm going to go through the problem areas with you and show you exactly what I mean. So I will start out with the original one that I got. So the original Hatsan 95 that I got had a very nice stock, but the very first day, the front insert fiber optic post fell out. And I was shooting it and I noticed that my shot groups weren't very good. And I remember Mike, I think Mike Ellingsworth is how you say his name, Stepping Stone on YouTube. He had talked about checking your barrels with a pellet to bore test, putting a pellet in your breech block and pushing it through. Well, I did that, but also the breech seal here was loose in there and it fell out and got lost. And that was a replacement one that I put in there. So that rifle, when I put a pellet in there and I pushed it through the barrel, it free fell through the barrel and fell out. This one, when I got it, I'm just going to cock it. That's the only way I can show this. Inside there on the breech port, which is inside the tube, if you can see that at all, there is something that I call a breech port nut. So that was loose, and every time you went to cock it, it would clip the breech seal right there. And you can see that I replaced this breech seal, but I didn't have that problem fixed immediately, and it was catching that breech seal. So I got that problem fixed, and the breech seal still was good enough, so I kept it in there and used it. These rifles come overly greasy, and the first several shots I had fire fly out of the barrel. Don't know if you can hear that. Very upset squirrel over there. So fire actually came out of the barrel several shots. This has a softer steel than a high quality like a Y-Row or a Diana rifle. So that's going to be problems. I'm going to show you some of the problems right here, right now. So right up here, see there's a little locking screw right there that budges up against that. Well, it has worked its way loose. Even though the stock is right up there on the edge of it, it has worked itself loose several times before, and I had to go in, take the big screw out and the little screw, and then I would tighten it all the way in, and I would find where the little screw would match up with the big screw. And then I had to take a file, and I had to file off metal of the big screw for the new spot, because it was a soft metal and things loosen up after time. And then I put it back in. But if you look really close, you can see that it is slipping a little bit. Back here on this one, what I'm going to warn you is to never ever use blue Loctite on that little screw right there, because it is impossible to get out after that. And you can see that I've boogered that screw. The trigger, when it comes, they do not have extra long trigger screws on this, and I had to put these aftermarket trigger screws in here. So it is a very light, crisp trigger. This is a very accurate rifle. I had taken it out on a grocery store run. I pulled off on a gravel road and went to a public hunting spot, and I tested to see whether it was on target or not, and it wasn't. But I'll show you how it grouped anyway. Also, there are other components on here that are not super high quality, like this plastic. That is like something I really hate on air rifles, but if it's accurate, I give it a pass. This is all plastic back here. Like I said, if it's accurate, I'll give it a pass. And one other thing I want to say is, if all you're going to do is shoot close and you got good eyes and you have good open sights, you might be better off sticking with them than fooling around with the scope, because these budget scopes can drive you nuts. This is a Hammer's scope, and it works decent, but it's like one of those things that almost every time I go out, I have to re-sight the rifle in. With open sights, if they're set right, you won't have to do that. Also, this rifle won't decock, so I'll have to take this to a safe place and discharge it later. And it's on safe right now. So I took this out shooting. Cute. I'm getting to smell somebody's cigarette stink. I took this out shooting, and some of the shots were just really wild at first. So I shot 10 times, and then finally the main group started landing right there. It just means it hadn't been shot in a while, and it was gunked up in there. And so finally grouped there. Then I adjusted over, and I started grouping mostly here, which is pretty decent. Over here, actually, this is from my Diana 34, which was shooting low, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So I adjusted over here, and I had a few shots drop down low, then some right there. I thought I had it on target, so I did a 10-shot group right here. This is off at 20 yards off of the hood of my vehicle in quite windy weather, as usual. But the quarter covers that up. So I would classify this rifle as a diamond in the rough, the Hatsan 95. Before I go on further with that, I want to give one other tip. So you saw that low shot group here that I just showed you from the Diana 34. So the deal is, I've been using this Gorilla Tape to shim that rear ring. See that? And what happens over time that I've discovered is that the goo stuff in there that works for the tape, it oozes out, and the scope smashes that down, and then you get your original barrel droop once again. I've had that happen with several rifles so far using Gorilla Tape. It's a type of duct tape. So I'm going to have to put a better shim in that. But as far as getting something like this, if you have the patience, I suggest you save up and buy yourself a higher end break barrel air rifle, like a Diana at the minimum, more likely aiming at an HW95, HW50, or HW30. But I figured I would just share this. And how do I rate these? It's one way or the other. It's either a diamond in the rough because it doesn't get to have the diamond status because of what I showed you with the screws coming loose. But the diamond part is that you can get good accuracy out of this air rifle. So yeah, so that's what I got to share about the diamond in the rough thing, and just another one of those sit down air rifle talk videos. And since it was nice out, I wanted to get outside and talk and sit here in the sun with the shade of the tree for a little bit and have the squirrels irritate me. So God bless everyone. Have an awesome day.